Hello, guten Tag, and welcome to another behind the scenes video. On one of my last behind the scenes videos about our short film Two Truths, One Lie, I asked you if you would be interested in seeing more behind the scenes videos, even if I didn't have the ability to bring you on set and see everything live unfolding, but me sitting here and doing the voiceover over what we see. Unfortunately for this project, I wasn't able to just have a behind the scenes person film everything and then just upload it raw like I'm used to, because unfortunately the most spoken language on set was German, which I think that most of you don't understand, and the second most language spoken on set was Turkish, which I don't even understand, so there's no point of uploading it just like this. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to show you the behind the scenes and I will just talk you through it. What equipment we used, the shots, why we used it, what we were filming, and then I will also show you some of the shots that we actually filmed. And if you're wondering about the 80s porn stash, I was just at an 80s theme party and well, that was part of my costume. But now, without further ado, let's start the behind the scenes. The project was about an old lonely man that was dwelling in the past and then refound his youth later in the video. And I was the director of photography for this. It was a really small crew because I think 2 people had to cancel last minutes because of sickness. So I had to do the first AC as well, kinda. I had some assistants, but it was basically just the gaffer, the actor, me, and the director. So here's our location, and I really love the location. It's from the 40s or 50s and it hasn't been renovated since. So we really lucked out with this one. The director found it, or the producer, I think. And here I am with the director Umut, and we're talking about our first scene and how we're going to light it. Here you can see our gaffer Kevin, and he's already setting up for our first scene. The first scene, all the lighting setups are really simple, so is this one. So we only had one IntelliTech light because it's very easy, it's small, you can just boom it overhead, and we used this one as our main key light for almost all of our scenes. And we put it on a boom arm so we could just boom it above our talent. Here I'm setting up the camera. Again, I was kind of the director of photography as well as the first AC, so I was doing everything by myself. We were shooting everything on my red KomodoX, and here I am rigging it out with our bright Tangerine system, the full cage, the Kasbah system, and you'll be seeing this throughout the entire video, and it's been really helpful for this. For the director's monitor as well as the first AC monitor, we also used my DJI transmission system that I'm using on basically all of my shoots, and of course the Portkeys BMD version 2 is also on top of our camera. The director asked me for some scratch audio, so I just hooked it up, and it's pretty cool with the red KomodoX that you have the XLR module, so you can actually run audio right directly into your camera, which is pretty cool. And we were using Atlas Anamorphics. This is the Orion series, and we had the, I believe it's the 24, the 32, and I remember there was an issue with some of the larger lenses that didn't arrive in time, so I think those were the only 2 lenses that we had to use, 32mm, and I believe it was the 24mm, but I will talk about this a little later. Here you can see me setting up the Kasbah system. This is just awesome because you can shoot handheld really stable and it's really quick if you want to, but with the dovetail quick release you can also just put it on a tripod, and we can also use it for other scenarios, and I will show you this later in the video. So here you can see me setting up the video village so that whenever the director needs to look at an image, he has a bigger image and doesn't need to crump over the camera for the small 7-inch monitor on top of the camera. For this I've been putting the Atomos Sumo 19 SE on a C-stand, and as you could see here, I always highly recommend that if you're in a residential area, especially with wooden floors, just use tennis balls underneath your C-stands. It will save the location and the client will thank you for it. Next up, we are also using again our DJI transmission system. I have the 7-inch high-bright monitor so that I could pull focus if I wanted to, or just if the director needs to be mobile, because there wasn't a lot of space in this apartment, so that maybe he can't really use the big 19-inch. And in order to pull focus, speaking of which, I've been using the Tilta Nano 2, which is my trusted follow focus for almost everything. And again, now our setup is complete and we are moving to our first location and our first scene, and you can see us frame the shots. Again, really easy with the Kasbah system because you could just hold it. And I think we were contemplating of shooting it on sticks or shooting it handheld. Here you can also see our first lighting setup that Kevin is setting up. and it's an overhead light. And it's awesome because we have this lantern softbox for the IntelliCheck RGB 160. And we also have a skirt with it. And this is really important because we don't have a lot of space. We have a lot of walls, so we don't want any of our lights spilling out. So here we can just control the light very easily. And you can also see that we set up a Pavo light tube on the left as a fill light. We're also using the practical lamp in the background as our light motivation. And we also have the outside light coming in. So really simple setup, just a key light, a little bit of a fill light, and then practical lamps as well as the natural light. And here I stand corrected. The director is still looking over the 7-inch monitor instead of using a 19-inch, but well, you know, directors. I really like the setup. Okay, now here's using the 19-inch. So I really like the setup. It's really simple. And here you can see the final shot. And by the way, this is just quickly graded by myself. This is not part of the actual project. I don't even know if the actual project has been released yet, but well, I don't know. If it was, I would have seen it, but I haven't. So probably it's still in post-production. So you can see that we were moving on to scene number 2. And I really liked scene 1. Again, very simple. And it gave this really moody feeling over everything. Was like really old vintage looking. So now we're setting up for our second light. And again, we're trying to portray his loneliness and him just being really sad and depressed and by himself in this apartment. And here the lighting setup, again, really simple. We have our key light, we have a couple of practical lights in the background as light motivation. They're all really warm and we have a really nice warm tone. We're switching out to the 21mm, and this is an amazing lens. I really like the curvature and all the distortion that it gets on the edges, and you really have him in this lonely space, and we wanted to just portray him sitting in this apartment by himself. So the 21mm, I really liked it. Also, there was no functioning light bulb in this ceiling lamp. So what we did is we took a small pocket light and we just fixed it into the entire light situation so that it also tied in and gave us a little bit of a fill light reflecting from the white cloth on the table back onto his face, so his face wasn't entirely dark. Obviously, we used a lot of haze to just get this really nice moody feeling in there. We used the power tube again as a little bit of a fill light that was being motivated by the practical lamp that you can see in the left corner of the shot. Here I am just looking at the big screen so that I can see that's nothing in the frame that's disturbing us. And now we are starting to record. And here you can see the final image. And you can see all the motivation and this really open space and the curvature and him just being really lonely. We also did a couple of variations of this shot, and I think we moved in a little bit closer afterwards. Here you can see that we're using the 32mm. Again, I would have liked to have a closer lens, like a 50mm or even an 85mm for some of the close-ups, but I remember something was up with the rental company and they couldn't provide it or something, so that was the only thing we had. So what we did is we just took the 32 and we just moved in closer to our subject. And here you can see the final shot again, motivation by the lamp in the background. And I also really like this shot. And our key light is just boomed right above him from an angle so that we get this shadow, because we really want to have it dramatic and we didn't really want to have a high key lighting. So we only want to have this silhouette lighting and just give him a bit of a rim light with our key light. And the rest is just a little underexposed and just emphasizes the dramatic and lonely situation. Now getting out of the living room into the bathroom, again, like really nice 40s, 50s bathroom. And we didn't really have a lot of space in here, and we decided to just light the entire scene just with a light tube or even 2 light tubes. I think we had one shining from the outside in to give us a little bit of an ambience, and then just use one of the tubes as a key light. We also used a practical lamp that was already in there. And then we had the 7-inch monitor from DJI for the director. We also filmed a little bit of ambience audio. And here we go. You can see the final shot. And it's just being him preparing for actually leaving his apartment for the first time in forever. And well, I think we did a pretty good job here. For our next scene, you can see us setting up our slider, and here we use the Zpon Xes. And this one isn't necessarily meant for such a big setup. It's usually meant for small mirrorless cameras, but I was actually surprised at how well it worked even with our big setup. I still decided to strip it down a little and got rid of all the handles, But again, with the Bright Tangerine Kasbah system, it's so easy because it has multiple points of quick releases. So you can just easily go from the big handheld setup to just a smaller setup. And that is what we put on the slider, had it motorized, and then I was pulling focus. Here I was pulling focus on a 19-inch because it was a little bit easier. And that was pretty much it. I think we only had one shot on the slider. And then as you can see, we can easily go back to the tripod for our next scene. So for this scene, we had one shot where he was leaving the apartment and we wanted to have a light shining in from the outside. Just a tube light or just the intellitic light was a little bit too harsh. So we decided to just use gaff tape and just have this diffusion frame and just gaff tape it to the door frame. So this is him leaving the apartment, standing there, looking back into his apartment. And then you just have this shot of him just standing there. And then here we go. Our next shot is just me putting the camera on sticks again. And this is the simplest lighting setup that we use because we just used available light and we used the light coming in from the outside and we just reflected it back with a silver reflector to give our actor a little bit of a fill light. So after this shot was done, we only had a couple more moving shots and I wanted to follow him. So I decided to put the camera on a shoulder mount to just follow him around the apartment as well as him leaving the apartment. I didn't want to have it too smooth and too sterile. So I decided that a shoulder mount situation would be the best for this. So here I'm repositioning my monitor with a magic arm and I absolutely hate magic arms and I need to find a better solution for this, but I still haven't, so magic arms is still the way to go. And as for our shoulder mount, we are using the Kasbah system again, which is really easy. You can just reposition the side handles and then you use a shoulder pad, which you can easily clip onto the entire system and then the camera is on your shoulders in no time. So the repositioning of the monitor is actually the hardest part. Everything else just takes a couple of seconds. And as a lighting setup, just a tube light bounced off the ceiling and that was pretty much it. I was actually quite happy with what we achieved here with such a small crew and a really limited lighting setup. We only used the practical lamps, the outside light, one pavo tube, as well as the Intellitek light mat. And that was actually a game changer because all of these light sources were really quick and easy to set up, but still gave us a really nice overall feel to it. So this is it, a little bit of a different format here with me live narrating a behind the scenes. I hope you still liked it, and if you did, then let me know down in the comments below. Give this video a thumbs up because it really helps the channel grow. And if you want to see another one of those for a bigger project with a lot more equipment and a much bigger crew, then let me know down in the comments below and I can make it happen too. And until then, I hope to see you on the next one and don't forget to subscribe.